Joining me in the studio now is Chichester-based confidence coach and founder of Champs Academy, Annette Du Bois. Annette works with children and teenagers across the South whose parents ask her to help their children overcome emotional, bullying and confidence issues. She's developed a set of practical tips and tools that viewers may find useful when it comes to boosting confidence. Thanks so much for coming in, Annette. Can I just start by asking, what's the biggest reason you find that children lack confidence nowadays?
A lot of it is around the age of sort of 8 to 10, and it's around social anxiety. So where they feel unconfident about maybe putting up their hand in class, they feel very self-conscious around their own peers. So things like criticisms and judgments come into it. So they develop social anxieties about speaking up in class and those kind of things. And that's where I can really help them.
And is there anything that might lead to that social anxiety? They were doing perfectly well until the age of 8 and then suddenly something happened. What kind of triggers it?
Around that time, a lot of young people become much more self-aware. So they're very self-conscious. Of course, they're all developing at different stages. And therefore, they tend to look and compare and feel judgments from others and against each other. And so that can lead to a real drop in confidence if they don't have the right skills and tools to be able to help them through.
But you've developed a whole variety of skills and tools. Help me out. Give us just three of them that you can explain us about.
Around body confidence, so things like physiology. So if you notice an unconfident child or unconfident individual, they usually have rounded shoulders, they'll be looking down. Whereas actually if you lift yourself up, if you breathe a little bit deeper, you tend to feel much more confident, much quicker. And the reason why is because our mind and body work in a cybernetic loop or a constant cycle. So when you start to feel something, you start to think it. So if you start to think low thoughts or feeling unconfident, then you start to develop it in your physiology. So that is one really, really quick thing that young people can do, change their physiology and start to feel better.
And what about other things? I mean, that seems so simple. Do you just literally tell children, look, if you sit up, I promise you, you'll feel better? Do they not think this is just rubbish?
No, not at all. It's about practice. It's like any new skill. So just like they're riding their bike or learning to ride their bike or learning to swim, they didn't just jump in the pool or jump on their bike. You know, they probably fell off or maybe sunk a little bit, and it took practice. But actually, practice in time, they start to get results. And when they get results, they really believe it. And of course, that's where the real pressure and power comes from.
And what kind of other things, what kind of other advice do you have?
I teach them how to deal with their inner chat. So things like negative self-talk. We all have a little voice inside our head, and usually it's very unconfident, it's very unhelpful, and it can be detrimental to their success. So it's about helping them to change the way that they communicate to themselves. So something as simple as, I believe in me. That can make all the difference to a young person going into exams or going into a new social situation. It can make all the difference.
And you've got some kind of examples of how you've worked with children that started off feeling possibly quite low, quite unconfident, and then by the end of it, you sort of managed to change things around. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. There was a 12-year-old girl. She was getting the bus to school, and there was a few girls that were being quite mean to her. There was a bullying situation that went on, and therefore she developed a bit of a fear about getting on the bus. Naturally, you would. So I spent some time with her, went through various different exercises and techniques to help build her confidence and also the resilience to overcome maybe different names that were being called. You know, we have a choice whether we choose to believe those or not. So working with her, she was then in a very short time feeling more confident to be able to get the bus. And from feedback from her mum recently, she's excelling in all classes, which is fantastic.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How can we become kind of immune or resilient to people calling us names? Because I think everybody can remember that period in your childhood when someone says something and you really take it very personally in a way that you probably don't later on. So what kind of strategies are there?
It's helping to realise that actually they have a choice, and the only opinion that is the most important in those situations is their own opinion. So if they can build up self-empowerment, self-worth and self-belief, then it doesn't matter what that other person or those other group of people are saying. It's what that individual feels themselves.
Do you ever worry that, you know, you're kind of saying that there'll be children that don't want to put up their hands in class, or, that are, feeling very low in confidence, but maybe they could just be shy, and shyness is you know, many people would say it's just a natural part of being a child, and you know, it's a natural part of, you know, wondering whether what you've got to say is, you know, is relevant or not, and that we shouldn't be kind of encouraging our children too much to be too outspoken and boisterous.
Of course, there's always a balance. You know, it's about finding the line between being sort of over assertive and being able to be confident in what they're saying. But most of the feedback I get from parents is that they've just come from a parents' evening or feedback from the teacher saying your child needs to be more involved in the class. And when they're more involved, of course, they tend to achieve more. So it's about finding that balance to really nurture that individual, to find their inner voice and help them become the best they can be.
Annette, thank you so much for coming in. It's really interesting.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.